So welcome everybody to the latest Jodale webinar. Today is the 29th of January 2022, and it's my absolute pleasure to be talking to Paul Rain live from Japan, where it's just 7 o'clock in the evening there now. And he's going to be talking to us all about ZenGengo and how it can be used for promoting all four skills in languages. So if people have any questions for Paul, feel free to put them in the chat. It's helpful for myself, who will be collecting the questions. If you put the letter Q in front of your question, so I can see what are questions or what are comments, feel free to make comments as well. And I will collect the questions in a Google Doc. And then when we have a natural pause, we'll put some questions to Paul, and he'll go over everything that you'll need to know about ZenGengo. So thank you so much, Paul, for agreeing to do this. Over to you. And I'm going to turn my video off now and mute my audio, and then I'll be putting some very difficult questions, hopefully, to you in a wee while.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So thank you for that, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you everyone who's joining us today. I can see in the chat that a few people are teaching different kinds of languages. I actually want to start with a bit of a confession, actually two confessions. The first confession is that I'm not actually a teacher of modern foreign languages. My background is in TESOL. I'm a teacher of English, and I've been teaching English in Japan for the past 15 years. My second confession is I don't actually speak Spanish, French, or German, but I do speak Japanese to a fairly fluent level. So I understand what it means to learn a foreign language, and I understand what it means to teach English as a foreign language. So that's my background. I'm not specifically a modern foreign languages teacher, but I believe that the basic principles behind ZenGengo apply to teaching any language. And I'd like to start this presentation by talking about some of the basic principles behind ZenGengo. I think if we get the principles down, then the technology kind of follows naturally from the principles. The pedagogical principles that we base the ZenGengo activities on, I'd like to start with discussing those first, okay? So experts estimate that it takes around 480 hours at least of study to obtain a basic level of fluency in a foreign language. And, that's involves different kinds of study. That would involve, face-to-face communication, but it would also involve reading and listening, and covering all four skills and studying vocabulary. All those different kinds of linguistic skills, language skills, would be included in that 480 hours. So we all know that teaching languages comes with very specific and unique challenges. Teaching languages is not like teaching a content subject, because you have to provide students with opportunities to practice those four skills. Basically, every lesson, every chance they get, they need to be practicing those four skills. So speaking language is not just about content knowledge, it's about having those four skills and being able to draw on those skills as and when required. So what is ZenGengo's mission? Our mission at ZenGengo is to allow teachers to quickly and easily create effective and engaging language learning activities for their students. And following on from that, to allow learners to engage with the target language in all four skills, both inside and outside of the classroom. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do with the website. Okay, now, how do we do this? What kind of activities do we recommend, or what kind of activities does ZenGengo provide in order to allow students to engage with the target language? Well, first of all, we believe in comprehensible input. If you're a linguistic, if you're into linguistics, you might be familiar with this hypothesis that was first put forward by Stephen Krashen, and that basically that learners need lots of comprehensible input. They need to read and listen to a lot of the target language at the appropriate level in order to improve their language skills. Okay. So ZenGengo empowers teachers to expose their students to a wide range of written and spoken language. And we believe that the teacher is the best judge of what is an appropriate level for their own students. So we do provide some pre-made content, and I'll come on to that a bit later. But at the moment, the main purpose of the site is to allow teachers to create their own content or to use existing content in a digital form. And that content will be appropriate for the teacher's own students. Yeah. One thing that technology allows us to do is to easily switch modalities. Okay, so traditionally, if you had a written text, that was going to be written and you provide it to the student on a PDF. If you had a spoken text, it would probably be on a CD. Maybe if your school is very high tech, it might be an MP3. But now we can easily switch modalities using AI speech synthesis, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. So that means that you can have a spoken and written text, and the students can read and listen to the text at the same time. That is a process known as dual coding, and it's been shown by the likes of Paul Nation, who is a very well-known and popular language teaching expert here in Japan. I'm hoping that some of you have also heard of him where you are. And he basically, he and others point out that if you listen and read at the same time, it improves your comprehension and improves your retention of the language in the text. Okay, so ZenGengo allows you to basically copy and paste the text and convert that text into a listening and reading activity. We also believe, obviously, in output. I think this was propounded originally by a scholar named Meryl Swain, I think. And she argued, yes, comprehensible input is important, but it's not the whole story. Students also need to speak and write a lot in the target language in order to improve speaking and writing in the target language. So basically, in order to speak a foreign language, you need to speak a lot of that foreign language. It's a kind of reinforcing a self-enforcing cycle. Yeah. So ZenGengo is one of the only platforms that we know that actively promotes all 4 language skills. Some websites focus only on listening, others focus only on speaking or on writing. ZenGengo allows you to teach all 4 skills under one umbrella on one website. Yeah. So we have a speaking drill activity that allows students to listen and repeat text, and the computer, which is operating an AI-powered speech recognition system, gives feedback on whether the student was able to comprehensively pronounce those words. We also have an open speech assignment that allows teachers to set open questions, and then students can talk about things like their hobbies or what they did at the weekend or those kind of things as well. So we cover controlled practice speaking and also production level speaking as well. Now here, obviously, we should never forget vocabulary. Vocabulary is the building blocks of any language. And I think I heard once in a presentation that if you know some vocabulary, you can convey a message. But if you don't know any vocabulary, but only some grammatical rules, you can't say anything in the foreign language. So you don't necessarily need grammar to make yourself understood. Obviously, it's helpful, but vocabulary is essential in making yourself understood in a foreign language. So for that reason, we have 2 different vocabulary activities. The first one is learning vocabulary in context. And again, Nation and others highlight the importance of learning vocabulary in context. It has to be in a passage of text where the word is being used in its natural meaning, so students can understand what that word means in relation to the words around it. But there is also pedagogical value in learning words out of context. So this is when you start maybe using flashcards. Traditionally, you would have the word on one side of the paper and the definition or image on the other side of the paper. And that allows students, that's called a paired associates, okay? And that's one of the most powerful and oldest forms of learning that we know about. And it's stuck around for a reason. The reason is that it does work, yeah? So we combine learning vocabulary in context and also paired associate vocabulary learning as well. Okay, now I should point out here that we do not purport to completely replace the language teacher. We're not trying to put you out of a job, basically. We're saying that we are a useful tool in conjunction with other activities, in conjunction with the other tools that you have as a teacher. You can improve the outcomes of your students by using ZenGengo, and you can also make your life easier because we automatically grade activities. It's very, very easy to create activities. So that's where we're coming from. Yeah. Okay, so those are the pedagogical foundations of ZenGengo. I'm going to take a quick breath and ask Joe if there are any questions at this point.
Absolutely. So we have one question from Greg. Is it possible to integrate ZenGengo into my ebook workbook?
Excuse me. I would have to have a little bit more information about what format of the ebook workbook is. You could upload your ebook into ZenGengo if the ebook was a PDF or a text file. Yes, if the ebook is a PDF, you can upload it into ZenGengo, and then you can create activities based around the PDF. That's perfectly possible.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And we have another, that's lovely, thank you. We have another question from Mohammed. Do we have a word limit for the text allowed to run on the platform?
It depends on the activity. I think for the one I pointed out earlier on, which was this listening and reading at the same time, the maximum length for that is 3,000 characters. Yeah, but you can, if you run out of characters, you can simply split into 2 or 3 parts. So if you have a very long text, you can have, part 1, part 2, part 3, like that. Yeah. The reason for the limit is that there's a limit on converting the text to speech. So yeah, there's a 3,000 character limit.
Lovely. So those are all the questions so far, but I'm loving the presentation. It's great. And I love that multimodal piece that you talked about. I think that's so important with technology nowadays. We don't just have to have reading and writing. We can have text to speech. We can have listening opportunities and speaking opportunities. It's just wonderful.
Yep. Okay, so I don't know, actually, Joe, do you have handy the kind of agenda that we agreed on for this webinar, just so you can maybe prompt me through the different steps? I think the first step was registering with the platform and creating a folder, I think, wasn't it?
Sure. And then I think it's just a question of going through the different activities, if that's okay. We just got another quick question, if that's all right, from Paul. Does the platform assess the discourse level, CEFR, so the Common European Framework? Now, we do have a lesson library, which is only available currently for English teachers, which has a cefr-leveled content. We don't have any cefr-leveled content right now for French, German, or Spanish, and there's no tool that's part of the platform that will determine the cefr level of your content. So yeah, the answer to that is, we have a lesson library for English, cefr level, but not for French, German, and Spanish at this time. Yeah. Okay, and then we have on the same point from Margarita. She's asking, is the content the content is aimed to what level of learners, e.g., children, teenagers, adults, and what language level? So this is a key point here. ZenGengo, I mean, we very, very, very recently launched our lesson library, which contains the pre-made content. But 95% of the purpose of ZenGengo is for you as a language teacher to create your own content, your own activities for your students, because we believe that you are the best judge of what is the best content for your students. So, and we also provide ways for you to convert paper-based content into ZenGengo activities. Yeah. So if you have a bunch of content that you've built up over the years and it's all paper-based, I'm going to show you how you can convert that into ZenGengo digital activities. Fantastic. And then we just have the one final question at this point, which is again from Mohammed. Could we use auto-correction activities for grammar for accuracy?
Yep, I'm going to come on to that a bit later when I discuss the writing assignment type. Yes, we do provide feedback, grammatical feedback on written assignments. Yeah.
Fantastic. And we've had, people keep asking questions, which is fantastic. It's lovely. A question from Montana about copyright. So I presume that we're saying that any text that you upload onto the site that you have created it yourself, or that you have permission to do so.
That is right. Yes. So, yeah, because you are using ZenGengo, any content that you upload, we assume that you have the right to use. So you will have to make sure that you have the right to use any content that you upload to the platform, basically. Yes.
Yeah. Superb. Okay, let's carry on with ZenGengo. Okay, brilliant.
Carry on. So to get started with ZenGengo, you simply have to visit zengengo.com and then click on sign up. Okay. Now, after that, you will see the opportunity to start a 30-day free trial. Okay, so we do offer a 30-day free trial, after which I think it's a very reasonable $9.99 a month or $99 a year for a regular teacher account. Now, if you are part of a school or a publisher or a bigger organization, we do offer special institutional deals as well. So you can contact us about the pricing for that. Yeah. Okay, so you sign up with ZenGengo, you start your free trial. I'm already signed in here, so I'll just skip that section, but basically you just follow the instructions and you start your free trial. And then the first thing that you see is this homepage after you've logged in, okay? This is your kind of dashboard. Now, what you'll see here is the ability to create a new folder, which you should do because all of your assignments, lessons, and courses will live inside folders. Yeah, the folder is like the base camp for your content. Yeah, and you can also import a course, and we provide some sample courses for English, French, Spanish, and German, which I've already imported here. You can see my English course, my French course, my Spanish course, and my I didn't import the German one, so I'll do that now. So what I do is click on import course and click on German and click OK, and that is now importing the sample German course. It'll take a couple of seconds. There we go. Okay, so now I have sample content in English, French, German, and Spanish. Okay, so let me go. Do we have any French teachers in the audience right now? Let's just check. I just want to have a quick count. If you're teaching English, please type English. If you're teaching French, please type French, Spanish, and German. Okay, so we do have at least one French teacher. Quite a few English teachers. It's good. Okay. Even though this is modern foreign languages, I think we've got the majority of people teaching English, actually. I don't think we have any Spanish teachers, no? No French or Spanish teachers, no, today?
Oh, no, we do. We have Maribel, who teaches Spanish. We have Vanessa teaching French. So we've got a real mix. It's
okay,
lovely.
We've got the whole range. Yeah.
Yeah, Margarita teaching German as well. That's great.
Yeah. Okay, so I should just point out that other languages could be taught with ZenGengo. I think we have teachers using it to teach Dutch, for example. I think we have a teacher using it right now to teach Japanese, but we don't officially support those languages. So we only officially support English, French, German, and Spanish right now. Yeah. So I'll start with demonstrating. Let me go to the French course here. Okay. So inside this folder, you'll see some example activities. First of all, we have an audio recording activity here. Okay, so what I will do after this activity has been created, and I'll show you what it looks like to create the activity. Basically, it looks like this. Okay, so you can define a prompt where students will read the prompt and then respond to the prompt. Okay, you can define an image that students can look at and respond to, and then you can set a time limit, and that's it. And there are some other options here, but I won't go into too much detail at this point. That's all you need to create a speaking activity for your students, okay? And once you've done that, then you can copy the link to this activity and you can send it to your students, which I'm going to put this into the chat, okay? And everyone in the chat now, you will be able to submit this assignment to me. So let's pretend that I'm your teacher. And okay, you might need to speak a little bit of French to do this one. Okay, so you would click on the link And then after you click on the link, what you would see is this page, yeah? And the student would read the question, and then the student would click on the record button and then respond to the question in French, yeah? Now, I can't actually speak French, so I can respond to this question in English, or I can try and do it in Japanese. Which would you prefer? What do we think,
Maybe in
Joe?
English, if that's okay.
Okay, all right, let's do it in English. And everyone can understand what I'm saying. So let's just imagine here that I'm speaking in French, okay? So, and actually, I can't really read the question. Joe, could you give me the gist of what this question says here?
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want me to say it in French, or do you want me to say it in English?
Translate in English.
Translate,
yeah.
right, okay. So what is there on the photo? What do you think about television programs to do with music broadcasts on the television? Would you like to go to a concert? Why not?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to respond to this, and let's pretend I'm speaking French. Okay. So I like to watch musical programs on television. When I was much younger, I used to watch the Eurovision Song Contest. I'm not sure that's still on television. These days, I think people tend to prefer to watch music on YouTube or perhaps TikTok. So I think social media has taken over where MTV used to be more popular. Okay, so I've got my recorded response here. Okay, now I can listen back to it as many times as I like. So I can do that. So I like to watch musical programs on television. And if I'm not happy with my response, I can re-record it, okay? And I can record it as many times as I like. And then after I'm happy with my response, I click on submit, okay? So let's imagine that I'm happy with my response, and I click on submit, and that's going to go into my teacher dashboard. Now, sorry, I made a mistake here. I am previewing this currently as a teacher, so I can't submit it, okay? So I'm going to go back and do it again, this time as a student. Okay, let me just change the submission settings here. So one thing I should point out here is that I'm changing the submission settings. Now, we have quite a few different kinds of submission settings in order to make ZenGengo as easy to use as possible. So if you want to do so, all you need to do is collect the student name, okay? The student name is the only thing that is actually required when you assign one of these activities to your students. Now, optionally, you can also collect a student number, and you can also collect a student email, but those are optional, okay? Now, you only need to collect a student email if you want to email feedback to the student later on. But for many schools, I think in the UK in particular, or for younger learners, you might not be able to collect an email address, and you just need to collect their name, okay? So this can all be configured from the submission settings button here, yeah? So when you create a folder and you have your assignments inside the folder, if you go to submission settings, you can decide whether you want students to log in, or whether you want them to input their name when they submit an assignment, or you can even create a list of submitters in advance as well, if you like, if you want to do that, yeah. So I'm going to just check collect student details on submission, and I'm going to check collect student name. That's it. I'm going to save that, okay. Now, when I go to submit this audio recording, all I will have to do is put in my name here, yeah. Now I'm going to answer this question again. When I was much younger, I used to enjoy watching Top of the Pops, and I used to enjoy watching the Eurovision Song Contest. But I think these days, social media has taken over traditional television broadcasts, and I think people prefer watching music on YouTube or perhaps even TikTok. Okay, so now I can submit that, listen to it again. I can just check that one more time. When I was much younger, I used to enjoy watching Top of the Pops. Okay, and I'm going to submit, and that will be going into the dashboard. Okay. Now, if I click on refresh here, I'll see now that I have one submission here. If I click on view, I can see the submission. I can listen to the recording. I can see who it was submitted by, and I can see when it was submitted. And we can see the score now is 0% because this was not graded by ZenGengo. If we want to give this a grade, we can click on give feedback, and then we can put the score in here. I can also type in some comments if I want, and I could record an audio response, or I could record a video response. Yeah. And once I save my feedback, oops, I can then get the feedback link, and I pop that into the chat, and you guys can take a look at that. That can be sent to the student, and the student will then be able to see their recording and the comments from the teacher here. Yeah. Now, I mentioned before I didn't require the student email. If I go back to submission settings, yeah, give it a second, and I click on collect student email, that will allow me to email feedback to the student. Yeah, but if this is unchecked, I can't do that. So that's my choice as a teacher, whether I want to email student feedback or not. Okay, so I think I'll take questions again, Joe. I think there's a few have piled up in the chat.
Yeah, we've got some lovely questions. The first one, which has been asked a couple of times, which is obviously very pressing for the audience, which is the following: is it free of charge for the students to submit the answers? If not, to how many students can I send a link? And likewise, we've had, thanks Dinah for the question. I will echo it. Do the students pay for it also? So can you clarify, do the students have to pay anything, or is it just a question that the teacher or teachers who've signed up, they can use it for a monthly fee, but the students don't have to pay? Is that right?
Okay, let me just cover that. Oops, I think I've gone back to the old one here for some reason. Okay, so if you sign up for a teacher account, the yearly rate for the teacher, $99, or Teacher Plus, $149. Now, for that, you get to create 250 assignments, okay? And every assignment can accept up to 50 submissions. So if you have a class of, say, 30 students, or if you have, say, 5 classes of 30 students, the teacher account will be sufficient for your purposes. And the students don't pay, okay? So the teacher pays, and then there's a limit on the number of assignments that you can create and the number of submissions that each assignment can receive. Now, if you decide to delete, if you receive 50 submissions for a particular assignment, and then you want to reuse that for the next class, you can delete the submissions and reuse it. Okay, so these limits are not permanent. They're temporary limits. They're like the total number of submissions at any particular time. But after you delete them, they can be reused. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's really helpful. Thank you. We had another question around recording on a mobile phone. So it says, I tried the recording exercise on my mobile, but I couldn't set the microphone permissions. Is there an app available for ZenGengo?
There's no app. So ZenGengo is completely web-based, and it works across all modern web browsers. So we've got Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, and Microsoft Edge. Okay, so if you're using the latest version or a relatively latest version of either of any of those 4 browsers, you shouldn't have any technical problems. When it comes to microphone permissions, there's a support article I can provide that goes into more detail about how to do that. So I won't go into the detail about that now, but I can provide a link that will solve that problem, I think. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And then we have another question. Is it possible to get the recording script or closed captions?
Yeah. Now, so for audio recording, if I go back to the assignment configuration here, okay, one thing I skipped over before was that you can see here it says manual transcripts. Okay, now we don't currently offer automatic transcription for open speech. Okay, that's very difficult to do, particularly for people who are learning a language, because their pronunciation is not, most speech recognition is trained on native speakers of that language. So if you have somebody learning English or someone learning French, their pronunciation is not good enough for the recognizer to correctly transcribe. Okay, so what we do is we do manual transcription, and this will require the student to transcribe their own speech before they submit their recording. Now, this actually is useful for 2 reasons. First of all, it gives the teacher a copy of a textual copy of the script that was spoken. And secondly, it gives the student a second pass on the language that they just produced. Yeah. So we have, I talked before about dual coding in terms of receptive skills. So you're listening and reading at the same time. I think the same also applies the other way around. So you're speaking and then you're listening back to your own speech and you're writing what you said. That also enables students to do something called noticing. That there's something called a noticing hypothesis in language learning, which means that in order to improve your grammatical accuracy or your vocabulary appropriateness, you have to notice that there was a problem in the first place. Yeah. And one way to do that is to listen back to your own speech and go, oh, I made a mistake there. So that second process of having to write your own, having to transcribe your own speech is useful pedagogically, as well as for the teacher in grading the submission.
Fantastic, lovely. We had another question around the assignments that you were talking about. So we had a question, can student submissions be saved elsewhere first before they are deleted? Is that possible?
Yes. So if you go back to the audio submissions here and click on view, we can see the option to download all data. So that will download all of the audio files that have been submitted for that assignment up to, depending on the plan that you're on, up to either 50 or 100, depending on whether you're on regular teacher or teacher plus. And you can also download all of the scores as well if you have specified a transcript. So if you specify a transcript for the audio recording, that transcript can be automatically graded, and it's graded based on the number of words spoken.
Awesome, yeah. That's fantastic. I can see Greg's very happy. He said, great, yeah. Exclamation mark, lovely. Another question, can we control somehow how students move from one unit to the other based on their grade or marks? I hear some platforms have that functionality, and do we need to do that manually or is it automatic?
Okay, so one unit to another, I guess one assignment to another, does that mean?
Well, I suppose it's looking at whether you can have a student-paced approach or a teacher-paced approach. I would imagine that's my interpretation. Maybe the person that's asked that question, if you could clarify. Yeah, student-paced. There we are. Mohammed is saying student-paced. So can the students work through, I suppose, independently at their own speed and do as many assignments as possible, or is it all very much sort of teacher-paced, teacher-controlled?
So at the moment, there isn't a way for the system to know how the student did on a previous assignment and then suggest the next assignment. I think that's what the question is relating to, maybe.
Yeah, so, he's saying based on their performance, student pace based on their performance.
Yeah.
And he's just saying, yeah. So thank you, Mohammed, for clarifying. So Paul, what would you say to that?
No, ZenGengo doesn't do that right now. So ZenGengo doesn't keep track of how students are doing. I mean, it keeps track of the score for individual assignments, but it doesn't recommend subsequent assignments based on that score. So you as a teacher would have to manually assign the assignments that you think are appropriate. Yeah.
Cool. Lovely. And then we had a question from Montana. How does the live monitor feature work?
Okay. Okay. So this is a slightly more advanced feature, but basically what live monitoring is just to show you which students are currently attempting a particular assignment. Okay. So let me go into a Spanish example here. Let me just copy and paste the gap fill activity here. Okay, if possible, I would like some people in the audience to please try this activity. I'm just going to go to collect student details on the submission. There we go. Okay. Now, if possible, can some people in the audience please click on that link? Okay, and then we can see live monitoring in action. So I'm going to click on view here and click on live monitor. Now, this will show me how many people are currently looking at that assignment. Okay, so there we go. There we go. Okay. So this is great for synchronous purposes. If you're teaching on Zoom or teaching on any kind of a synchronous platform, and you want to make sure that your students are doing what they should be doing, this is a great way to do it. So I can see there are 7 connected users right now. So it doesn't show me in detail like what they're doing, that's something that we're thinking about adding, maybe possibly in the future. But it just shows me who's currently looking at that page. Yeah, so that's live monitoring.
Amazing. That's lovely. And then we have a lovely question here, which is one of our attendees said that they registered for a 30-day free trial, but then didn't have the time to do the trial. Would they be able to have another trial or ask for another trial, or how would that work? If they, as we know, everyone's very, very busy, and you sign up for these trials, and then suddenly you realize that, you know, a big caseload has come in and you don't have time. Is it possible to use the same email address, or would he have to register again with a different email address?
It's perfectly fine. If you send me a message, Paul at ZenGengo, .com, just to explain your situation, we're ordinarily more than happy to extend your trial by another month. Yeah.
Superb, lovely. And then we've got another question that's just come in.
Yep.
If the students need to submit their transcript before a speaking assignment, what is the tolerated duration of accomplishing their transcripts?
Okay, so with the audio recording activity, the only way to do the transcript is after the speaking, because otherwise it's not a transcript, it's a script. Okay, so in my opinion, a script comes before and a transcript comes after. So if you want students to submit a written form of their speech before they do the recording, for that I would recommend using the written report activity type. Okay, so you create two assignments. One would be a written report where students would submit their speech to you and in a written form, and the second would be an audio recording where students would submit their speech to you in a spoken form. So yeah. And for that, the limit, I think, is 1,000 words. Let's just, yeah, it's 1,000 words limit for the written report. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so those are all the questions so far. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for your amazing questions. Please keep them coming. So, when our question, what question types are available for reading? Is the last question from Mohammed.
Yeah, let me go on and demonstrate some of the reading activities.
Okay,
yeah,
lovely. Thanks, so everyone. Brilliant.
Okay, I'm just gonna demonstrate from the English now, because everyone at least understands English. So I know, there's some people who teach French, some people who teach German and Spanish, but let's stick with English so we can all understand the content here. Okay. So this is an example of some reading activities. The first reading activity we have is a text gap fill. So this could be a reading or listening or combined reading and listening activity here. So what you would do is basically copy and paste a text that you want students to read. Okay, this one I just found on Wikipedia. I just copied and pasted a text about England. That's my home country. And then you would just click on OK. And it would allow you to, in the next section, to choose which words you want to remove from the text. Okay, so this is a typical gap fill activity that every language teacher has probably used at some point in their career. And gap fill activities are useful pedagogically, that they do allow students to learn new vocabulary and to understand, to improve their grammatical understanding. And you have to have some level of grammatical ability in order to actually figure out what the missing word should be as well. So the literature on gap fills is pretty good. So the student can just click the words they want to remove. Okay, so the teacher will click the words they want the students to study. Okay, so I've got country, United Kingdom, Wales, Scotland, sea, Celtic Sea. Okay, now if I want to do so, I can choose that for students to be able to listen to this text at the same time as reading it. Okay, and to do that, I just have to choose a voice at the top here. Now let me turn the voice off for a second. Okay, and click update. And then show you what it looks like. Oops, sorry, I didn't. I have to update the settings on this one as well. There we go. Gap fill. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So this is a reading activity now. It says listen to the audio, but we just turned the audio off just now. Okay, so this is a reading activity. The student has to read and figure out what the missing words are here. So England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. Now, if we want, we can make this a little bit easier for the student by fiddling with some options. So we can do something like we can show the show letter hints. So let me just edit this text. I click on show letter hints. Okay. and just remove some words again. Update, go back to this one again. And now you should see that the first few letters of each word are actually visible to the student. So that's a little bit easier. If you're doing a listening and reading activity, probably you don't need any letter hints. But if it's just reading, it's usually useful to have some letter hints like that. Yeah. You can also convert it into a drop-down activity if you prefer as well. So let me show you that quickly. I can do a drop-down list, okay, and remove some words again. Now, with the drop-down activity, you can actually determine the distractors yourself. So this is, I think, particularly useful for teaching modern foreign languages because there's so many different conjugations of verbs, and students can easily get the wrong conjugation, or they could get, in German, for example, the masculine, feminine, and neutral articles or determiners, die, der, das, etc. The teacher can specify a list of options for each word. Okay, so I could put here, I could put a, an, the, it, some, of, or something like that to make it slightly more challenging for the student to figure out what the correct answer is. Yeah. Now, if I go back to the assignment here, now I can see that I've got a, and, it, of, the. Okay, so that's a lot more challenging for a student to figure out. Is it a country? Is it an country? Is it the country? Well, it could be the country, but it depends on the rest of the sentence, right? So, that makes it a lot harder for students to figure out, and it requires them to use their grammatical knowledge to a greater extent, I think. Yeah. So that is one kind of reading activity. The other kind of reading activity that we have is text to test. Okay. Now, text to test, basically what it allows you to do is, again, you're working from a text, hence text to test. And I'm sure that all language teachers have a big repository of text that they built up over the years. So you can just copy and paste a text that you've already written. Or maybe if you're like me, you can use Wikipedia as well. Wikipedia is a really good source of texts. Now, what you do is you hit the process button, and text to test will return for you the definitions of the keywords in the passage, and it will also return the sentences split into sentences like this. So you can choose which words you would like students to study in that particular text, and just by checking the word on the left side here. Okay, and then you can choose which sentences you would like the students to study by checking the sentences here as well. And if you want it to be a listening activity, you choose a voice. If you want it to be only reading, you would deselect the voice like this. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's only reading. Okay, read the text, and the next stage is check the words, and you get the definitions of the words popping up like this. And the next stage is a kind of a word definition matching activity. And the next stage is a grammar reorganization activity. Yeah. Okay. Now, if I want to, I can do this as a listening and reading activity. So I just go back and choose a voice. Let's go with UK Amy. And now I'll see that I'll be able to read and listen at the same time. Oh, hang on a second. I think something went wrong there. Okay, looks like there's a little gremlin in the system there. I seem to have lost the ability to listen to that. But yeah, it will allow you to listen and read. Oh, I think I was going back to the gap fill. That's why. Let me go back to text to test. That's probably why it wasn't working. Yeah, I think I was looking at the wrong activity there. This one. There we go. Okay, so there we go, and I can now listen to and read.
England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. It shares land borders.
Yeah, and if I don't particularly like that voice, I can change it into a different voice. Okay, I can maybe choose an American voice, or yeah, if you're doing French, German, Spanish, we also have French, German, and Spanish voices as well. But I'll maybe choose, let's see, US English and Matthew, for example. Okay, let's preview that.
England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. It shares land borders with Wales to its west and Scotland to its north.
Okay, like this. Okay. So yeah, text to test is a really versatile tool, and you can even, if you like, you can even do it just as listening. So you just click on show text to speech only, and that will convert the reading and listening section into just a listening section. Okay, so students can listen to the passage and then study the words in the passage after that, and that would look like this.
England is a country that is part of the Italy and the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, like that. Okay, I can take a couple of more questions at this point, I think.
Lovely. So we've got some great questions. Thank you again to everyone with your fantastic questions. So let's start with the first one. So are the responses case sensitive? So in the reading example that you were showing us, I just had an experience with another platform where only answers with correct capitalization were accepted. And then leading on from that, Maribella said, I noticed that when I made a modification to the text after creating the exercise, the words to be removed needed to be selected again. So is it better to make sure the text is completely right before pasting it to create the exercise? Could you answer those two questions? Because they're quite similar, aren't they? I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So for text gap fill, it is case insensitive. Yeah. So if a student some reason has the caps lock on and they type everything out in uppercase, it will still mark it correct. Yeah. And the other question, yes, that is a bit of a bugbear. I appreciate that. That if you've carefully gone through and selected say 50 words to remove, and then you suddenly realize, oh no, the text isn't quite right, I need to change it. Yeah, unfortunately, the way the assignment works is that you have to clear out the words that you've removed before you can edit the text. So yeah, I would recommend that the text is completely right, and you double check it before you start removing words. Yeah.
Fantastic. We had another question around cheating and plagiarism. Is there a function or a method to detect if there is any cheating or plagiarism on the platform?
Yeah, we do have a few functions like that. Okay, so for example, in the written report assignment type here, if you go down the page, you can see it says copy and paste, enable or disable. Okay, so this is the most powerful thing we have for preventing plagiarism, is that students literally can't copy and paste. Now, if they wanted to, they could type it out manually, they could copy it manually, but if a student's that determined to cheat, there's not a lot you can do about it. And in my opinion, if they're typing out an English text manually, at least they are processing the text, by typing it out. It's not exactly what I want them to do, but preventing copy and paste is as far as we can go, really, in preventing plagiarism. We also are intending to implement detection and prevention of Grammarly. So some teachers may have encountered this Grammarly plugin that you can get for your web browser, and it will basically help you to translate text, not translate, sorry. It will help you to write more eloquently, but maybe you don't want students relying on that. I mean, it is a good pedagogical tool, but if you're using ZenGengo for assessment purposes, you might not want students to use Grammarly while they're doing their assessment. The other thing we do as well, by the way, is we do detect the use of Google Translate, and that's across all assignments. So if I go into my my text gap fill, for example, and I try to translate the page, it shouldn't let me do it. Let's just try translate to, there you go. So as soon as I try to translate the page, it just says, sorry, Google Translation is not available on this page. Okay, and that applies across all 10 activity types. So Google Translate is completely blocked. Grammarly will be blocked in a future update, and copy and paste can be blocked.
Brilliant, fantastic. That's great. That's a really, really nice feature. Paul in the chat has just said, "Wow." Yeah, that's a really nice feature. Lovely. Sorry, I think I interrupted you, Paul. Sorry. Sorry. Copy and paste can be blocked according to the teacher's preferences. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Lovely,
fantastic. On a related point, we have the question: if the answers are changed after the students have taken the assignment, does it affect the student's attempt?
Very good question. And these are the kind of things that programmers have to think about. By the way, I should mention that I developed this. I'm the main programmer behind the ZenGengo platform, as well as a teacher. So these are the things that I spend my evenings thinking about. if you change the question, if you change the assignment after you already have submissions, it will warn you. Okay, so you'll see. Let me go back to one that has submissions here. It was the French one, maybe, was it? Yeah, if you click edit here, it already has one submission. If I click edit, it will say it already has submissions. Are you sure you wish to edit it? Okay, if you do decide that you want to continue, it will update that assignment for people who have not yet taken it. It will not change the grade or the score or anything else for students who have already submitted it.
That's really, really good to know. Lovely, excellent. Another question, can you modify the definitions of the words, or is that something that's done automatically?
Yes, you can. So talking about text to test, I think, let's go back to text to test. Let's go back to the English folder here. Text to test. Okay, so you'll see here that these definitions are editable. Okay, so ZenGengo does its best to provide the most relevant definition, but occasionally there are words that do have more than one definition. I know shares, for example. Okay, so here we have a noun form of the word shares, and we have a verb form of the word shares. So you can delete the noun part maybe and just leave the verb part. Okay, so yeah, if you want to edit these, or you want to even add your own definitions, I can do that, right? So if I could click on add custom word, say I want to give a definition for I don't know, or I can even do a whole phrase. So if I wanted a definition from, say, separated from, okay, I could do that, and I click on add custom word, type in separated from, and then at the bottom here, I'll be able to provide my own definition for that particular word or phrase. It means to be slightly apart from something else. Okay, not a very good definition, but you get the idea. Okay, so and once I've done that, then that will appear in the definitions in the words in the text. I just have to make sure that that word is checked as tested. Yeah, if I click on preview now, I should be able to see that separated from is, oh, hang on, I need to make it into a reading and listening activity to do that. Okay, this one here. Okay, date. And there we'll see, okay, separated from, and that is my custom definition that I provided myself. So that is possible, yes.
That's brilliant. I can see Maribel, who asked the question, has just written wonderful exclamation mark. That's lovely.
Okay,
right, another question from Mohammed, and don't apologize, Mohammed, for asking lots of questions. That's what we're here for. That's brilliant. So he's asked, what type of auto feedback do students get on their grammar in writing?
Right, yes, I can demonstrate that. So I think we detect around about 2,000 different kinds of mistakes, but they never seem to be the ones that teachers actually want. We always get this feedback like, doesn't it detect this kind of mistake? We do detect lots of different kind of mistakes, okay? But it doesn't detect every single possible mistake. But you can supplement the mistakes that are detected automatically with your own comments as well. So if I go to written report here and I click on submit as a student, okay, I can show you some examples of the kind of things it detects. Let's have to find a sample text here. Let me just type something in. Okay, start writing. Okay, let's try that. And then just put in some gobbledygook. So I can't submit because my word count was under the limit of the minimum words here. So I basically specified a minimum word count of 20 words. And if my word count is less than that, I can't submit. Okay. So I have to make sure that I've typed at least 20 words, click on submit. And then I should be able to see some feedback here. There we go. Okay. So we have this subject verb agreement error that it's picked up on, right? I likes is not correct. Is obviously is misspelled. Name is misspelled. My is misspelled, or does not start with the uppercase letter. And all of these are gobbledygook. It's recognized that, yeah. So it does detect quite a range of mistakes. Not every mistake, but a good range of mistakes. Yeah.
That's lovely. And I can see Mohammed has said, impressive. Wow. That's lovely. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. And then the last question in this section is around when you were showing us the text to speech option, we have the question, is it possible to use your own voice? Can you record your own voice, for example, for a listening comprehension activity?
Absolutely, yes. So if I go back to text to test again, let's look at that one. Okay, and I decide I don't want to use text to speech. Okay, I can turn that off. Okay, and display reading section only. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide a media prompt. So that will be at the top here. I already have one media prompt, which is the image, and I can add another media prompt, which would be my voice, my audio voice. Okay, so I click on audio here, click on record, and then I can just read this text here with my own voice. Let me just copy that. Oops, into a place where I can see it. Okay, I'm going to click on record. England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. It shares land borders with Wales to its west and Scotland to its north. The Irish Sea lies northwest of England and the Celtic Sea to the southwest. Okay, I'll just stop there. I can listen back to that. England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. Okay, I can upload it. Okay, and I'll just put in United Kingdom, something like that. Okay. Couple of seconds to process that audio upload. Okay, I can play it back. England is a country that is part. Now, if I save that and click on preview again, I should be able to listen to my own voice and read the article at the same time. There we go. England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. There we go. Yeah. So you can do it with your own voice, or if you're lazy or you don't have much time, you can simply convert the text to speech using synthesized voices. Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. We've had another question. Can we set the number of attempts for our students?
Okay, so this is another kind of thing that we've gone back and forth on as a development team. Currently, you can't have multiple attempts. So the only way for a student to have a second attempt at the same assignment is for you as a teacher to delete their first attempt. Or they could submit a second attempt under a different name. If they try and submit the same under the same name, it will say, sorry, someone with this name has already submitted this assignment. Please see your teacher if you're confused. So yeah, multiple attempts can be done first of all, if you delete the first attempt as a teacher, or if the student submits under a different name. Those are the two ways to do multiple attempts. Yeah.
Superb. Lovely. Well, those are all the questions so far. What can we see now? I think everyone is absolutely enthralled by ZenGengo. Are there any other things you'd like to show us, Paul?
Yes, I think I'd like to. I know I haven't covered all of the assignment types yet, but I would really like to talk about the lesson library. I know there's quite a few people here teaching English. Okay, so we do have. We recently launched this lesson library that you can see in the top here. Okay, now if you click on that, that will launch this ready-made library of cefr leveled content. Now, currently, this is only for English, again, as I said before, but if you're an English teacher, it's going to save you lots and lots of time, and it's going to be a very, very useful tool for you, okay? So you can filter it by cefr level, you can filter it by particular topic by searching for a topic here at the top. Let's say I want to do B2, okay? I got a choice of AI and Elon Musk. We're adding content all the time, by the way, so there's going to be more content in the future, okay? So let's say I want to teach my students about AI. I'll just first of all, click on try it, okay? So I can see exactly what the lesson contains. So I can see, okay, it's reading activity.
You have probably heard of AI.
With some definitions, yeah, okay, let me just go through these. Lots of questions here to keep students busy for at least 20 minutes or so, if not longer, I think. This is the feedback given to the student. This is a listening and typing activity.
You have probably heard of AI, but do you know what it means?
Okay, so I can try this all out before I import it into my account as a teacher. Okay. And I've got, this is a speaking activity, okay, so I can listen and repeat the line here, and the computer will tell me whether I pronounced it in a comprehensible way or not.
You have probably heard of AI, but do you know what it means?
you have probably heard of AI. Okay, give that a second and it'll figure out, okay, you probably heard of AI, but I didn't pronounce the second part here. Okay, so that's the way the speaking drill works. Okay, now if I'm happy with that lesson, I think, oh yeah, this is a really good lesson for my students, and we're talking about AI right now, and it'd be really good for students to do this for their homework. I just click on import, okay, and then I choose the folder I want to import it into. Let's say my English course, okay, click import, and that lesson will be imported into my account. And currently, all of the lessons in the lesson library are completely free. They're included in the price that you already pay, $99 a year for a regular teacher account or $149 for a Teacher Plus account. We may be adding more content in the future that would be a premium level content, but at the moment, all the content in the lesson library is included in the price that you already pay. And students can actually do this as well. So if you have students who want to study independently, you can tell them to go to zengengo.com/lesson-library. They put that in the chat, okay? And they will be able to study these assignments themselves without you doing anything at all. Now, you cannot track their progress that way. Okay, but if you want to track their progress, you need to purchase a ZenGengo account. But if you want students to just practice on their own, independently, autonomously, they can go to Lesson Library and they can click on Try It, and then they can just do the lesson themselves. Yeah, and that is Lesson Library.
That's fantastic. We've got a quick comment from the chat saying, encouraging, I'm against multiple attempts. They spoil students. Our university platform makes them mark hunters, not really interested in improving their level if we provide them with this option. I love that term, mark hunters. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we had a debate about that again recently. You know, we do get feedback. We have to make certain judgment calls on certain, you know, fundamental issues. One of them is being able to resubmit. One of them, you know, there's a few perennial issues that keep coming up again and again and again. And we just have to make a judgment call based on what we think is best for the majority of users. So yeah, at the minute, if you want students to reattempt, you can delete the first attempt, and that's the only way to do it, really. Yeah.
Fantastic. So are there any other assignment tasks that you'd like to show us, Paul, or what do you think?
Yeah, we have another 30 minutes, I think, don't we? Well,
absolutely,
absolutely. An hour, haven't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant.
Right, let me have a look 1 second. Well, maybe I can ask the audience, is there anything they particularly want to see? We have covered so far, we've covered audio recording, we've covered text gap fill and text to test, and we have quite a few other assignment types here. Is there anything that anyone particularly wants to see?
So feel free to write your comments in the chat, and we'd be more than happy to provide some explanation. Right, so Montana's asking, speaking drill, please.
Okay, speaking drill. Okay, I did briefly demonstrate that just now, but let's have a look at it in more detail. Yeah, so let's go into.
We also have the question, does it allow for group or for pair work, or is it more sort of for independent practice?
So ZenGengo is not optimized for group or pair work, but it can be used for group or pair work. If you go to submission settings and you say you only want the student name, okay, then when a student submits an assignment, let's go back to, say, the audio recording. Say you have two students and you want them to interview each other. That's quite a common activity in language teaching, right? Interview your partner. Okay, you can do that. So students what they would do is, when they submit the activity, they just put in two names. They just put in, say, Paul and Joe, like that, yeah? And then when you mark it, you can see that it was done by Paul and Joe, not just Paul, not just Joe. Yeah, but that's a little hack, really. But it's not optimized for pair work, but it can be used in some situations for pair and group work. Yes, yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Lovely. So yeah, if we could have a look at the speaking drill, if that's okay. Yep. Oh, and Michelle is asking, is it okay to write in the Japanese alphabet? Great question.
So we do not officially support Japanese. We do have, I noticed recently there's one person, a paying user who is using ZenGengo to teach Japanese, but he creates all of his activities in Romaji, okay? Now, we are based in Japan and we feel like we would like to support Japanese, but up until now, there hasn't been enough of a financial incentive to do that. It's just quite a big commitment of time, development time and expertise. one of the reasons behind that, and I won't go on about this for too long, okay, I want to just explain why it's quite tricky to do Japanese as compared to other languages, is because there's no spaces in Japanese, okay? So you have to segment the words another way. So every activity that relies on word segmentation, for example, text gap fill, text to test, and other activities like that, we would have to have a separate algorithm for separating the Japanese kanji. Yeah. So that's one of the challenges we have of supporting languages like Japanese. Yeah.
We've had a great question from ADB19, which is, can we use ZenGengo in Microsoft Teams platform? Because we saw the Google Classroom integration. Is it just a question of copying the link into, say, a Microsoft Teams assignment?
Yes. I mean, it depends on how deep integration you really want. Now, we are working on our official Teams integration right now. At the moment, we integrate with Google Classroom, and we're working on integrating with Moodle. We will have an official Teams integration in the near future, but until that point, you have two options. You can copy and paste the submission link into Teams, or you can actually copy and paste an iframe. So any of these ZenGengo assignments can be embedded in any other platform that supports iframes. So, for example, Moodle supports iframes, and certain other websites support iframes. But for Microsoft Teams, I think right now, it's simply a matter of copying and pasting the submission link into Teams. And we will have an official integration coming soon. Yeah,
that's amazing. I'm sure there'll be lots of teachers looking for that. It's really, really, really nice to hear. We had a question from Bashaya, which is, do students track progress? Do they have some sort of levels or points?
Not in the way I think he or she, sorry, it means. Sorry, not in the way that question implies. I think that comes back to the thing about, can ZenGengo direct students through a certain sequence of assignments depending on their performance in previous assignments? No, we don't do that. So you have to decide. You have to assign students a sequence of assignments that you think is appropriate for them. Yeah.
Fantastic. So Bashaya, if you wanted to clarify your question, or hopefully that's answered the question, if you wanted any more clarification, could you put that in the chat, please, if that's okay? And then I see ADB19 is saying that she uses Moodle to assign exams and assignments. So presumably, would that be the same answer, that you'd put the link into Moodle
Yes.
in order to set assignments?
Yes, exactly. So right now, the way to integrate ZenGengo into Moodle is to copy and paste the submission link, or to copy and paste the iframe code. And you can get that if you go to, I think this is available only if you're a plus level user, by the way. But if you go to the cog icon, you'll see get embed code, and you just copy and paste that into Moodle, and it will show the assignment within Moodle. Okay. Now we are working, we probably will be releasing an LTI integration in the near future, and that will allow you to get the student name out of Moodle into ZenGengo, and then to get the grade from ZenGengo back into Moodle. But that will only probably be available to institutions and not to individual teachers.
That's brilliant, lovely. And I can see that Bashai is saying, yes, great, great answer. She's understood perfectly. That's lovely. Great.
Yes,
so what can we look at now, Paul?
I think speaking drill. I think somebody requested speaking drill.
Speaking drill. Yeah,
10 minutes ago, I think. So let's look at speaking drill. Okay. So this is speaking drill, and this does work for French, Spanish, and German as well, by the way. But it's experimental in those languages. Part of the reason is because we can't thoroughly test it because we don't have anyone on our team who is able to speak French, German, and Spanish right now. But we do support it in 4 languages. But I'm going to demonstrate the English version here. Okay. And what you will do is you'll go into speaking drill, and you will add a sentence. So you click on add sentence. Okay. Now you type in the sentence that you want your students to practice. Okay. So I'm just going to put in, say, for example, I don't know, I like to play soccer, I don't know, at the weekend. Okay. Now there's a variety of options here. If you want, you can make it into a listen and repeat activity. So to do that, you just click on enable text to speech. Okay. And it says spoken model will be provided. That means it will be listen and repeat activity. Okay, let me just make this the first question here. So when we try it out, we can go straight to this question here. I'm just moving this question up to the top. Oh, there we go. Okay. We can also do a media prompt. Okay. So if you wanted to, you could say something like, I want to play soccer at the weekend. And you say you could have an image of someone playing soccer. So you can give the student more clue of what they need to say. So I can search for an image. We have an inbuilt image search, by the way. So you can use that to find Creative Commons royalty-free images for all of your assignments that you create on the platform. Okay, that's a pretty good picture. Okay, so I'll stick with that. I like to play soccer at the weekends, and it's listen and repeat activity here. I click on Save, Update. Now, view as student, and you'll see I have the picture, I have the text, and I have the microphone button here. Now, when I click on it, I like to play soccer at the weekend. Okay. I got it, perfect pronunciation. Okay. Now, if I don't pronounce a word correctly, or I don't pronounce a word at all, it will give me feedback and show me that I've made a mistake. So I like to play at the weekend. So I didn't pronounce the word soccer there. You can see it's missing the word soccer. Yeah. So we are not 100% confident whether it's the fault of the person speaking, the pronunciation was not clear enough, or it's the fault of the recognizer for not recognizing the voice. So that's why we have a question mark here and not a cross. You know, a cross is very much like, oh, you made a mistake. The question mark is more like, you know, are you sure that you pronounce this in a comprehensible way? Yeah. And when you create the activity, you'll see that we have generous and strict modes. Strict is currently in beta, by the way, so it's a little bit experimental. I recommend for the time being using generous mode, and that means that it's a little bit more lenient for kind of non-normative pronunciation. So if someone has a strong a strong English accent when they're speaking French, or a strong French accent when they're speaking English, it should still recognize them as long as it's comprehensible enough. Yeah. So for students who want to speak like a native speaker, we have another option, which is ELSA, but this is not available to individual teachers right now. This is kind of an institutional option here, and that's a lot more fine grain. It goes into like the phonetic level, and it gives feedback on the phonetic level of where the student is failing to pronounce the words like a native speaker would do. Yeah. So the option that I recommend for general everyday use is the generous recognition mode here. Yeah.
I think that's really impressive, Paul. I really like that feature. That's great.
Even the UK has various accents, right? I mean, I could go off the rails here a little bit, but basically, English is if you're teaching English, you are transitioning from teaching English as a foreign language to teaching English as lingua franca. And English as lingua franca is less strict about accent, less strict about grammar, less strict about vocabulary, and it's more focusing on, you know, is the speech comprehensible? Can you achieve what you're trying to achieve without conforming to native speaker norms? Yeah.
On that point, we had a question from Montana. Well, a comment from Montana. I tried speaking drill with a group recently, and some of them found it difficult to control the speed. Any comments on that, Paul?
Control the speed. Is Montana referring to the speed of the model, maybe?
Yeah, Montana, can you clarify if that's okay? That'd be really. So you're saying yes, yeah.
Okay, so you can control the speed of the model. If we go back to the assignment and click on preview, speaking drill here. Here on the right side, you'll see a little cog icon. If you click on that, you can slow it down. So
I like to play soccer at the weekend.
And you can do it normal speed.
I like to play soccer at the weekend.
You can even, if you want, you can do it faster than normal speed.
I like to play soccer at the weekend.
So we have 3 speed options right now. Now, these settings are kind of hidden away, by the way. And these speed options apply to all of the assignments I've shown you so far. So the text to text and the text gap fill you can also change the speed of the audio. But we are aware of that this interface is not the most intuitive, and we're going to be redesigning this this audio player to make it a little bit more easy to use at some point in the future. Yeah.
That's lovely. And Montana said thank you. So that's brilliant. I'm sure her students will appreciate that, knowing that. That's lovely.
Yep. Okay, we have a question about lingua franca here. Okay. More lenient option, I teach air traffic controllers, want them to pronounce words in a comprehensible way. They don't have to speak like a native. Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult question. It is a difficult question, that one. I mean, the system that we use, the generous option for air traffic controllers, I wouldn't want to cause an accident. I wouldn't want them to speak badly, to cause an accident. I did read it once about there was an issue with levels of politeness. I think it was a Thai air traffic controller talking to an American pilot, and the Thai air traffic controller couldn't put across the urgency of the situation. It might have been the other way around. It might have been a Thai pilot and an American air traffic controller, one way or the other anyway. And he couldn't put across the urgency of the situation, and there ended up being an accident. That wasn't to do with pronunciation. That was to do with sociolinguistics and kind of, cultural factors. But for pronunciation, generous option I think is best if you're aiming at lingua franca. Yeah.
Okay, so we have another comment. My curious student immediately has found out that there are 3 speed options. Curiosity and practice are great motivators. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Give a tool to a student and they will work out all the different things that you can do with it very, very quickly. I'm sure that's brilliant. Lovely. Excellent. Okay. What else can we see now, Paul?
Okay, let's see. So we've covered, I think, a lot of the different assignments types here. Let me show you a multiple choice quiz, because that was recently updated. So this has some quite interesting. Okay, something with video. Okay, let's do something with video. Okay, so let's find a video we want to use from YouTube, and I like TED Ed. So let's look for TED Ed. Okay. And I want to go for, I don't know, improve your critical thinking. Okay, that's a good one. So I'm going to copy this link here from the video. I'm going to put it into a multiple choice quiz assignment here. So let's call this critical thinking. Okay. I'm going to put in a media prompt, which will be a video and a YouTube URL, and just paste that in there. Okay, now my video is embedded in the assignment. Okay, now as a teacher, I have to create some questions. So I'm going to watch the bit of the video and create some questions here. So.
Socrates, one of the founding fathers of Western philosophical thought, was on.
Okay, so I'll just put multiple choice. Who was one of the founding fathers of philosophical thought? That's a tongue twister, that, isn't it? Who was one of the founding fathers of philosophical thought? Try saying that 10 times quickly. And the answer, of course, is Socrates. Okay, and wrong answers. I'm going to put, I don't know, David Beckham. What else? I don't know, David Bowie, and maybe Steve. Okay, so if we want to do that, we can have text options there. Okay, so that's one possible way to do it. Now, if we want to do it, we can actually convert the text into speech. So we can convert the question into speech. So the question will be spoken to the students, and we can also convert the answers into speech. So the answers will be spoken to students. So again, the whole of ZenGengo plays around this idea that anything in writing could be a listening activity, because we're able to convert text to speech very, very easily. So whenever you have a written material, it could easily become listening material. Yeah. So if I save that now and preview it as a student, okay, and I'll now see the video here, and I'll see the question. Now the question has become an audio icon. When I click on it,
who was one of the founding fathers of philosophical
thought. And
thought.
I've got the option that I wrote in has now become a spoken option.
David Beckham, David Bowie, Socrates.
Okay,
Steve.
so if I watch the video, I'll figure out it was Socrates.
Socrates, one of the founding fathers of Western philosophical thought.
So
Socrates.
that's the correct answer. Click on submit, and it should be marked as 100% correct. Yes. Okay, I can do other things with multiple choice. I can do I can require the students to check multiple options, or I can do a reordering activity, or I can do a categorization type activity. Let's see what else the video has that, to see what other kind of questions we could create here.
On trial. Many Athenians believed he was a dangerous enemy of the state, accusing the philosopher of corrupting the youth and refusing to recognize their gods.
Corrupting the youth, enemy of the state. Okay, so I've got, let me put a categorization thing here. What was Socrates? Okay, maybe I'll do a multiple check. Actually, that's a better option, I think, here. So check multiple. What was Socrates accused of? And I've got answers that I can have multiple answers. Okay, so I've got corrupting the youth was one. What were the other ones? I can't remember now. Have to go back.
Western philosophical thought was on trial. Many Athenians believed he was a dangerous enemy of the state, accusing the philosopher of corrupting the youth and refusing to recognize their gods.
Okay, refusing to recognize gods. Recognize gods, and he was an enemy of the state. Wrong answers maybe could be like, I don't know, not cooking pasta long enough. What are some really horrible things that people do? Putting out the wrong kind of rubbish on the wrong day. That's a heinous sin in Japan, by the way. That would be worse than corrupting the youth. Wrong kind of rubbish on the wrong day. Okay, one more. Having a bad fashion sense. Okay, if I now save that and go back to my quiz, okay. One more time. Now you can see I'm trying to submit it as test, and it's telling me that I've already submitted. This is what we were talking about before, right? You can't have students submitting the same assignment under the same name multiple times. So I'll just do test 2. Okay, now I have the first question.
Who was one of the founding fathers of philosophical thought?
And the second question here. And now I can check multiple ones. So refusing to recognize gods, enemy of the state, and putting out the wrong kind of rubbish on the wrong day. Yeah, that must be right. Okay. And that would be 25% because I only got 1 or 2 of these correct. Yes, and I got this one wrong as well. So, okay, so that's a multiple choice quiz. We can do other things as well, like we can do images. So I can say, for example, multiple choice, and I could say, which of these is Socrates? And then the answer can be an image, okay? And I can do a search for Socrates. Let's see if we have Socrates in here. We don't have Socrates in here. So what I have to do is find a picture of Socrates on Google and then upload it to ZenGengo. This is Socrates here. So I'm just going to save that to my desktop and then upload it into the question here. Upload. This one here. Okay, that's uploading. There we go. The next one I could just do another answer, a wrong answer. Okay, let me just select this picture here. Okay. Okay, go back to my quiz, take a look. And question 3 now should be an image matching question rather than a text matching question. There we go. Which of these are Socrates? This one. Yeah. And that should be marked correct. There we go. Okay. So yeah, multiple choice is really, really versatile. You can have images, you can have audio, you can have text, and you can have any kind of media prompt that you want at the top. It could be a video from YouTube, it could be a PDF, an image, an audio recording. So you can mix and match all different kinds of media video, audio, text in any combination that you think is most pedagogically useful for your students. Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay.
It's absolutely amazing that, as I said, the multimodal approach is you've got so much possibility of customization, and as you say, just meeting the needs of your students based on what they need to practice. It's really mind-blowing. It's amazing. We've got another question, Paul, if that's okay, which is the following from Greg. In terms of organizing your folders or lessons, is there a way to optimize organization to get the most out of the teacher plan? What would you recommend for that?
Oh, really good question. The way I use ZenGengo at university in Japan is that I have one folder for every class that I teach. Okay, so I can show the folders. I can't show the content because it might reveal the names, but I can show the folders. Okay, let me do that. So this is an actual live account that I use for actual teaching here in Japan. So you can see I've got all my classes here. I've got the period number, everything like that. And then within the folder, I think I can go in the folder. Let me just pause my screen 1 second. I think I can go in the folder without revealing any names. Let's just see if that's possible. Yes, that's fine. Okay, so within the folder you can see that I've created all of these assignments, and I've kind of numbered them by week: session 1, session 2, session 3, etc. And you can see on the right side all the students who've submitted the assignments, 21 submissions. Now what I will do is, this is from the fall semester 2021. Now when I finish my grading, which is due on end of this month, and I'm actually a bit behind on that. When I finish my grading, I'll empty all of these submissions, and I'll just keep this folder, and I'll use it again in the following semester, in the following fall semester next year. Yeah, so yeah, you need to invest in ZenGengo a little bit initially, to build up your stock of assignments. Once you've done that, you can just reuse them over and over and over again. So yeah, that's what I do. Superb,
lovely. And I can see Greg's just said perfect, thanks, lovely. Yeah. Okay, so we've got another couple of minutes. I don't know if people have any more questions. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for all your fantastic questions so far. If you do have a quick cheeky question at the end, please write it now, and we're coming towards the wrapping up stage. So are there any sort of final messages, Paul, you wanted to share with us, or any final assignment types that you wanted to show us in the webinar?
I think, I won't get into another assignment type right now. I didn't cover video recording, which is basically the same as audio, but with video. So, the actual options are exactly the same for video. Yeah. Written report is allowing you to get students to write something down, and then it will give feedback on grammar and things like that. The other ones are video gap fill. I didn't cover. Basically, that just allows you to import a video from YouTube and then create a gap fill from the video. You can also do that with text gap fill by having a video as a media prompt. But video gap fill actually will time the question to the video, so it's a bit more interactive. Yeah. Vocab test is just a way of testing vocabulary. You can test it with speaking or listen and type dictation or multiple choice. And content page is a way of delivering different kinds of media. So if you want students, so I use this, for example, here, you can see I've got a content page here. I use this for discussion questions. So students will look at the picture and they will discuss the questions. And when they finish discussing it, they'll click on OK. There's no like quiz. It's just, did you look at this picture? Did you discuss these questions? That's what we use content page for. Yeah. And there's loads more things you can do with ZenGengo, different kinds of submission settings. You can integrate with Google Classroom. Lesson Wizard, I didn't cover that. You can use Lesson Wizard. You can copy and paste a text, or you can even take a picture of a text, and then ZenGengo will convert that text into 4 different assignment types: a text gap fill, text to test, speaking drill, and multiple choice quiz. Yeah, so this is a real time saver, and our users love using this Lesson Wizard as well. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, there's so much more to explore. It's been an amazing webinar. Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your expertise. I love the comment from Greg as well a moment ago, which was it's a treat to have the creator explaining the use of the program. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. I think it's been really, really lovely to have a deep dive into all the different features that you've shared with us today. That's been brilliant. And I can see as well, someone's joined us late. Maria's joined us late, asking about the recording of the webinar. So just to clarify for everyone, the recording of the webinar will be put up onto my YouTube channel as per normal, which is available at Joe Dale 100. Superb. Okay, lovely. Maybe a final thought from you, Paul.
I will say that anyone who wants a 10% discount, and the discount will be valid for as long as you retain your subscription to ZenGengo. If you email me, paul@zengengo.com, tell me a little bit about your teaching situation, a little bit about your school, and I'll be happy to provide you with a coupon code. So just drop me a line at paul@zengengo.com for a 10% recurring discount on your subscription.
That's absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for the opportunity there, Paul, and for that fantastic promotion. Thank you ever so much for everyone for coming along. You can probably see, even with my white background, that the sunshine on the Isle of Wight is streaming in at the moment. So I really hope that if you're in the UK, you have a fantastic end of, a fantastic day, should I say. It's still the morning in the UK. Wherever you are in the world, if you're in Japan, for example, hope you have a lovely evening, and so on and so forth. And thank you ever so much for everyone for coming along. For your brilliant questions. We had some really good questions there, which was just great, keeping Paul on his toes, as I asked at the beginning. Thank you so much to Paul, of course, for showing us ZenGengo, for answering all the questions so eruditely and specifically. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I wish everyone the very best in their teaching with ZenGengo, and getting in contact with Paul if you'd like to try out the trial. And I'm sure he would love to hear some feedback from you as well. Feel free to send him a message, send him a tweet on Twitter, join the Facebook group. There's a ZenGengo Facebook group in addition to the TILTAL Facebook group as well. Keep the conversation going, and let's spread the word about the power of the amazing ZenGengo. Superb. So I'm going to stop the recording now.